Yeah.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of HEX Therapy Live. I'm your host, Maddie Allin, and I've got my guests here. Dramatic pause.
Oh, this is a moving picture?
Hey, Hexicans.
It's a silent movie.
Where's the audience? I don't understand how this works. I'm a confused personality.
Well, you were running Discourse Syndicate the other day, so I think you did a pretty good job with that, by the way.
Oh,
He did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Some of us don't want to even rewatch that. That's very kind. Too kind. This is testament that the Hexican community is incredibly loving and supportive of all screw ups. I almost said something bad.
Oh, you didn't screw up. You're fine.
He's being very humble.
Yeah, I have to give 100 hex to anybody that gives me a compliment. So these guys have applied for my airdrop.
Don't make that mistake, Papa. You know how I am with data.
Oh damn! You'll have like 50 different accounts and trying to. Yeah, I know you.
Complimenting him on all of them.
Yeah. I want that 50,000 hex. I'm coming.
Oh, man.
I'm giving you some XP. Here you go.
XP.
XP.
So our topic tonight is personality tests, and it's simply because people have been so interested in the topic of personalities that, you know, people have been asking in the comments when I'm doing other shows about other topics. And so I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. That's why I invited the guys on here. And so before we get started here, I'm just going to run a quick advertisement for Theta, and then we'll get started. Cool. And so the reason why I ran that ad is because it's actually part of HEX Therapy to be promoting mental health by offering badges as a way to reward yourself for doing things that are good for your mental health, such as delaying gratification, which is what you do with HEX when you stake, when you lock up your money in stakes and you're paid trustless interest. All of us are super lucky to be earning 40 to 60% interest on the hex that we've staked up until this point. And so that's something that I want to continue to build with the community, even in the direction of like maybe even having like fitness competitions where there are hex badges being issued. So it won't just be based on how much money you're staking or something, but it'll actually be trying to reward you for those healthy behaviors. So
I like that a lot. I think that's great. Who's been doing the ski cat weight loss challenge? Anyone?
No, not me.
I guess that's just
Hexo's
me.
been doing it. Ski Cat's been doing it.
I've lost like 10.5 kilos since I started that in November. I think it was when that started. So in 4 months, like 10.5 kilos. That's like 25 pounds.
Wow.
Oh, you look remarkable, Hexmac.
Thank you, Papa.
I really do see I do really see the difference. I remember when you came on screen, I said, "Wow, what a nice looking guy." Now you're a stunner, man. Look at you. You're like, you should be doing the singles night dating game type of thing. Welcome, I'm your host, Hexmac. How you doing? You look great.
Thank you. I appreciate
We're gonna
that.
auction off a date with Hexmac later on the
All
show.
right. All right.
Starting
I've
at
been
one
negative
T-share.
What t-shirt?
One tea back.
And so I know we got the idea for this show partially whenever we were backstage after the one chip challenge, and here Ross Hex is already trying to one up everybody by saying
God.
that somebody should
No.
have a 2-chip challenge. I don't know. I did not participate. How did that turn out for you guys who did? What was the aftermath like?
Well, the aftermath on the stomach wasn't too good for the next couple of days, but otherwise it was fine. You know, just a couple days to get over it, and that's pretty much it.
You were the
There's
horse I
definitely
bet
got to
on.
be a hex
Yeah.
badge for that, you know,
Yeah.
Oh,
eating a chip to redeem the community
Yeah.
from a false promise that was never made, but that was attached to whether the price would go up or not, right?
Yeah.
Now we're clear for takeoff, I guess,
Yep.
because the one chip curse has been lifted.
Yeah.
Thank you for chipping for our sins.
Yes.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
Sacrifices must be made.
Exactly. Yes.
So I've put out the personality test here that we're going to be working off of, and so you can see it here. I already put it in the chat. I just put it out there again. It's a pretty long. It's 50 questions. I haven't taken it in a while. I used to take it all the time. So I know my personality, and I know a lot of you guys have already taken this in preparation for the discussion here. And I think one of the other fun things that we might do tonight is speculate as to what Richard Hart's personality type is. Of course, he's the creator of Hex, and so I think he's got a very interesting personality. So I think it'll be a good discussion.
I'm very
Let's
curious.
see. Let's check in here with the chat and see how everybody's doing. Identity Black, how's it going? Crypto 303. K, Old Man Hex. Let's see. Marcavelli says, buy Hex, don't be poor. Okay, no poor shaming around here. Is ETH going to hit 2K by daybreak? I don't know. Anybody buying ETH right now?
Nope.
Only for Hex.
Yeah.
I bought ETH in 1994.
Really?
Yeah. So
Like
awesome.
ethanol or something?
Ethernet cables? You just bought a truckload of Ethernet cables?
Holes. Yeah, yeah.
Holy shit.
My dad sometimes gets that mixed up. He says,
Oh,
I'm just going to go and buy some Ethernet. Like,
Yeah.
Dad, it's Ethereum, Dad.
We've got lots of Cat 5. Premium Cat 5.
Yep. Mixed. Was it with twisted pairs? Let's make them ourselves. Crimp.
Yeah.
Crimp.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yeah. I think I've still got that print thing somewhere.
Mhm.
Ooh, I actually think Ethereum might pop 2000. It's at 1950 right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's so close.
So
is it?
close.
It's a matter of time.
But is
Live
it gonna
ETH pump.
is it gonna rocket up after that? You know, when do we hit 25 on ETH?
Mm.
I mean,
25,000 more like.
yeah,
To the moon.
yeah. I'm the worst at holding ETH though. I can never hold on to it. It always goes into Hex or goes into like
Gas
you know,
fees, yeah.
playing around with smart contracts. Like for the Hex badges, it costs a lot of ETH. There's so many things you can do with ETH. It's really slippery.
Yeah.
You need
I
to
find
put
that
it in a hardware wallet and then put it in your locked cabinet to not scratch at it to get that nice gas
I
money.
tried that. I put it on a physical coin. Sure enough, I got it off the coin. I put it into Hex.
You're an ethaholic, man.
Eat the
I
hall.
know.
Gas
Hexaholic,
guzzler.
more like it. Let's see. Yes, I got the hoodie. the Crypty hoodie. Check it out.
Yeah.
Proof of
Some
hood,
people are
please?
taking the test
Proof of
as we
hood.
speak. What's that?
In the hood.
Yeah, we need proof of hood.
Yeah. Let me see. Crypto Coffee is giving away $100 worth of Hex.
What? Why am I here?
Yeah, shut down the stream. See, but what we're giving away is much more valuable, at least at this point. Maybe not in the future, but knowing thyself. That how can you put a price on that?
Can't put a price on that. No.
Well,
Priceless.
Papa can put a price on it though.
I was thinking 1 ETH.
For 1 ETH, you would not know thyself.
Oh, totally. I would not know myself.
He'd do it for half an ETH. Let's be
I
honest.
would.
Yeah.
I would estrange myself from myself for half an ETH. For gas to buy Hex. Of course, I'm a Hex whore. Of course I would.
I thought we were gonna auction off a date with Hexmac, but apparently we're auctioning off Papa B's self-knowledge.
Oh my gosh, that's deep. You could actually have both. You could be on Hexmac's date and be thinking about the self-knowledge that you didn't get from me, not knowing myself.
Oh man.
Metaphysical discussion here. This is amazing.
That's right. Good. Yeah, we have more and more people joining, and I can tell that people out there, they want to understand their own personalities and understand themselves. Of course, this is useful in getting along with other people, interpersonal dynamics, interpersonal effectiveness, as well as mastering your own emotions to some extent, and mastering your investments is also very much having to do with knowing maybe how emotional you are, right? And so the Myers-Briggs personality test, it's one of the most common personality tests that's out there. I believe the link that we have here, it allows you to take the test for free and to see really cool descriptions, to be able to see whether the personality test got you right or not. This is a little bit related to astrology, but kind of not, right? In astrology, they just kind of say a bunch of stuff that could be true, and then you have your what bias would that be? You have some sort of bias where you believe it, just because part of it was true. So, people have such a drive to understand themselves. I think that we look to the stars, we look to the crystal ball, but we also look to Myers and Briggs, the two people that came up with the 16 different personalities. And so we'll show you here what the test looks like. Here, I'll pull it up.
Some of us also look to Dunning and Kruger.
Yeah.
Is there a test for Dunning-Kruger, or it's just really obvious?
It's just reality slaps you in the face, I think,
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger.
So this is a direct link to the test. And so you start off here. You enjoy vibrant social events with lots of people. Now, some people will get stuck on some of these questions because it's really hard to say one way or another, right? It's very bipolar in a sense that there are two poles here on a single spectrum, right? And so, whereas with the test that we did last week, that was emotional intelligence and being able to increase your emotional intelligence by increasing your emotional awareness, I referred to those questions as being a little bit easier to answer than these questions here. But still, the general advice is don't overthink it, okay? And just think of, in general, try not to come up with a bunch of different scenarios where maybe it's one way, maybe it's another. You're really just answering the questions about your typical personality and behavior, and then it allows you to get to the end, where you get categorized into something. And the way that I've seen this in a lot of people who take the test is it either matches up really well or it really doesn't match up well. people kind of fall into those two categories. Did any of you find that the personality test was accurate?
I found mine to be.
I found mine to be as well.
It's pretty accurate. Yeah.
It is one of those things, though, where you can like think yourself out of your actual personality. Like if you sit there and overanalyze the questions too much and kind of don't go into it with your intuition, and you're overthinking, you can just think yourself into a different personality.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a very type A comment. Gaming the system.
Well, not gaming it, but like just going to the thing that feels like the most right answer off the cusp, and not going into those layers of like, oh, but this scenario I could fall into this side of it, or this scenario I could fall into this. Yeah, you take that into account too, but it's generally where I'm most drawn to. I figured that gave the most correct and accurate reading.
Mm-hmm.
So did you guys answer these based on who you wish you were or who you are?
I did it like 3 or 4 times over a space of a week, and they all came back. I think 3 of them were the same, and then I had 1 outlier.
I tried
You
to
didn't
answer
the
honestly.
question.
He's a politician.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, like I wanted to know that it wasn't just a one-off. I was in a mood, and that made me answer questions in a certain way, or it made me answer them in a different way. I wanted to know multiple times that my answers were the same over a period of time.
Testing for consistency.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I got
Like
wrapped
product
around the axle with the cultural bias that there is attached to this type of test.
Uh-huh.
So you have to actually weigh that for your background, your ethnicity, the language skills. All these things really actually do pepper the test with all sorts of problems. So I got wrapped around that after the test, which probably also is the last answer of the test, that I think too damn much about the test.
Yeah. Yeah, and so again, this helps us to understand many of the limitations that these types of personality tests have. This really doesn't get used very much in my practice of therapy because oftentimes it's so hard to put somebody into a certain category. Now, if I'm teaching interpersonal social skills, this might be helpful to some personality types to do it, or it might be helpful even in basically relationship dynamics, because there is some actually really good, if you can find a personality description that really matches yours and your partner can as well, then that's actually a really good indicator that the descriptions that you can find about how you two interact, there's a lot of websites that show the Myers-Briggs personality relationships. And so those can actually help people to understand how they come around conflict and how they can resolve their conflict, how they can respect their differences. And so that's particularly helpful, even more than just knowing who you are, is knowing who you are in relation to somebody else, maybe that you're spending your life with or that you're having a long-term relationship with. I think that that's really helpful. And it kind of speaks to like healthy relationships in general can be, it oftentimes there's like a lot of research that shows that if you don't have 5 close friends, then your mortality rates and like your lifespan and everything is like much more horrible. And so, I mean, it's like having less than 5 close friends is just as bad for you as smoking an extra pack of cigarettes a day or drinking an extra pint of alcohol.
Now you tell me.
Damn, I got a free pint waiting for me.
Quick,
Wait,
guys,
no,
can you please be my
don't.
close friends?
Just because you have 5 close friends doesn't mean you should drink yourself into oblivion. That's not what I'm saying. But that's how important it is for humans to be social, even if your personality type says that you actually lose energy. So the first dimension here is introverted versus extroverted. And that's something that a lot of people are kind of familiar. I would say out of all the other ones are the most familiar with is whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. If you've heard of any of this stuff, you might know about that. Right. And so the general idea here is that an extrovert is somebody who gets energy from being around other people. And an introvert is somebody who gets energy from being alone. Right. And again, neither one is like good or bad. Right. Because there's a balance in the world, and there's, there's even really cool videos on YouTube about like, what is the power of being an introvert. Right. And so, but again, the important thing to understand is like, how am I similar to certain people and how am I different from certain people? How can I meet my needs in a way that isn't expecting too much from somebody who that's not how they get their energy, right?
Proof of work and proof of stake. Got it.
Okay, good. Yes.
That's a good analogy.
And we're a hybrid, right? We're both.
In HEX, yes.
Yeah.
HEX.
Yeah.
So-
HEX, obviously.
I'm an extrovert. How about you guys? Most of you are introverts, right?
Introvert.
Introvert.
I'm introvert. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do I win?
I'm just kidding. And that's interesting. I wonder how the personalities in HEX are skewed one way or another on some of these dimensions. So what do you guys like about being introverts? So you're often described as reserved and private. You tend to think things through inside your head. You'd rather observe than be the center of attention. And so then you prefer introversion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like the ability to observe probably the most out of those.
I like to manage risk. And loose lips sink ships. So F off, everyone.
Yeah. Kevin, Vince.
Yeah. Certainly to be to just observe, then to be the center of attention. It's. I think it's probably. I think it's quite an Asian thing. I think,
Yeah.
to hide in the shadows and
Hide in the shadow. Yeah. I feel the exact same way. Yeah. I tend to be a deep thinker too, so I tend to think a lot about things before I talk. So, yeah.
And does that speak to more of like a collectivist versus an individualistic kind of nature or culture? I mean,
yeah. I think it could be a cultural thing. So if you had Asians do this kind of test, I think you would tend to get more introverts compared to
compared to extroverts. Yeah.
compared to extroverts. Yeah. So as to what Papa V just said, it could be some cultural factors could skew the results one way.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I guess that's a reason why I was thinking about not even having this as a topic on HEX therapy, but it's so popular, the idea of knowing your personality and everything. But even the idea of a personality itself, right, is a very individualistic type of philosophy of how the world works and how the mind works in psychology. One of my favorite classes of all time that I took in graduate school studying clinical psychology was called The Development of Psychopathic Personality. And it was one of these seminar classes where it was just myself and maybe 6 other super smart graduate students basically doing our own research and presenting on a topic each week, along with having to write a paper and then review articles that were similar in nature. But the instructor really helps me to understand personality on a deep level, because the idea that he premised the class with was, if personality is something that's defined by being a persistent trait, then if you're diagnosing somebody in psychology as having something that's persistent, then how can you even treat that? You know, if it's something that's defined as being fixed, how are you going to change somebody's personality if the way you're defining it is by it being something that's fixed? And so that led to a bunch of really interesting discussions about that opened my eyes to the fact that there is not as much like scientific evidence about genetics versus environment. Like if you ask somebody, they might say it's 50-50. It's not 50-50. It's mostly the environment. Like your genes are a code that tells your body if a certain protein is present, like you can make that protein, and that switch could be on or off, right? And so without the presence of that protein, then that code doesn't even matter. And so and then when they look at single nucleotide polymorphisms, which is like SNPs, so that's most of the genetic studies are based not on like chromosomes but subdivisions of chromosomes. They're looking at somebody's genetic code, and they're looking at literally a billion different variables, and then they're trying to match that up with a behavior that either falls into one of two categories, right? So it's like behavior doesn't fall into two categories no matter what you're talking about. Usually behavior is on a spectrum, right? And so so the fact that you're falsely categorizing things as yes or no binary, and then even if you do find a way to capture a spectrum of a behavior, then the problem is, let's say you have 10 variables and you match them up with a billion variables, then the mathematics is always going to say, yes, like you have a correlation, you know? So, but that's spurious. And even if you run the test 100 times, you could find a spurious relationship many times just by chance, right? So maybe there are 10,000 correlations the first time you run it, and like on the 100th time you run it, there's still 5. And so you're like, oh, we found something, right? Well, you haven't really proven, because, I mean, statistics and math, they weren't invented, like statistics hasn't really advanced that much in the past 50 years or since it was invented, in my opinion. So anyway, that's my little rant about like, you know, it's more complicated than all this.
Yeah.
But again, this is a way, like if your partner's introverted and you're extroverted, like you might have other friendships, right, that they approve of, that are healthy, right, that respect boundaries, and then you're able to meet your needs that way instead of like expecting that person to be an extrovert with you. You're not putting all the pressure just on one person to meet all your needs. So
now I have an excuse though to get out of the house more. Dear, you don't want me to die from like having no friends and cigarette every day, right? So I gotta go to the bar without you. Matty Allen told me so.
Bit of a
If
stretch.
that's your best excuse, I guess go ahead and use it, right?
I think it's also interesting you bring up like the binary, you know, either extroversion or introversion, because given the right circumstance, one side of my personality can come out more than the other, but
Yes.
it needs to be under the right circumstance and setting. It's not always that way. So
Exactly.
these things they have a fluidity to them for sure.
Yeah.
That the test tries to capture it, you know, it tries to capture it, the stable state, rather than keep the personality fluid as it is.
Even when you can measure somebody's like behavior, it's always really complicated because how much of that isn't just an artifact of what environment they're in, right? And so really the only way you can ever tell something scientifically is by following the actual scientific method, which says you need randomized within subjects controlled studies. So for example, whenever we were studying the behavior of addiction and we were studying attention and emotion in humans, we were able to manipulate by paying people to pay them to either continue smoking or to quit smoking for a certain period of time that we asked them, and then we were able to measure their brainwaves and their performance on attentional and emotional tasks that were designed to light up certain areas of the brain and to be able to see the effects of nicotine patch versus placebo patch within the same people. And so that cuts out a lot of the noise. But when bad research is done, which is like probably 95% of research, and like even if it sounds scientific, it could be terrible research. Like the Alzheimer's research went in the wrong direction for like 30 years and wasted probably tens of billions of dollars just because they made the assumption that plaques and tangles, that's what causes Alzheimer's disease, when in fact that's just a symptom. And so if you watch the second ever episode of HEX Therapy, you can see me wearing a silly headband that causes, when I'm sleeping, causes certain sounds to be played that I can't hear, and that causes more slow wave activity in the brain while you're sleeping and leads to more restful sleep, and probably helps like I say that as a researcher, so like as a normal person it definitely helps with Alzheimer's.
Oh, it does. Can I get one of those things?
They're like $400 new from Philips, and it uses
I'll
EEG,
take the Alzheimer's.
But oftentimes I find them on eBay for like, in fairly new condition for $100 or $150. So that's I mean it's an investment that I made, and because Alzheimer's runs in my family, and I want to remember my seed words. I want to remember where I put them.
I don't. I want to be your friend later in life, Maddie. Maddie, I told you already ate lunch. Now, what were those seed words?
What were the seed words? Yeah.
But your long-term memory is better than your short-term memory when you have Alzheimer's, right? For the first stage anyway. So maybe I as long as you remember us from 15 years in the future, then
then I'll trust you.
Yeah. You'll say,
as
I
long
remember
as
you.
Treat me well now.
Well, how much HEX you got for me? So, Maddie, just for clarification, we're about a half hour into this groove. You said there were 50 questions, and we're on question number 1.
That's right. So this has been broken down into really. So if you take the test, then there's 50 questions. But if we just look at the bird's eye view of all this stuff, we can really look at the 4 different dimensions. And then that'll allow us to cover the material more quickly in a way that's probably more digestible for the audience, or alternatively is less digestive. And sorry guys. So
any comments on less digestive?
Gotta take some Tums with that.
Vince, eat another chip.
Oh, please no.
That'll clear your pipes.
We have figured out what each of us are on this dimension of introversion versus extroversion. And we've covered what it is. Now, I want you to write on your secret ballot what you think Richard Hart is, the founder of HEX. Do you think that he is an extrovert or an introvert?
Well, by the way he dances, I know the answer to that one.
I think he probably leans. I want to, sitting at home in your jocks. That's introversion right there.
Of course it is.
We all know that, I do that. I'm sure Papa does that.
Oh
Vince?
yeah, I'm in my jocks right now.
TMI.
Business upwards, pleasure
Yeah.
downward.
Exactly. Oh, I'm getting much airflow down there.
Oh. TMI.
See, you
I
threw
wanna
me
say
off
extrovert.
because his dancing is so idolized. I almost mistook your comment, but I think you're right.
He's dancing alone.
Yeah.
But so is that
He's
an
up to date.
extrovert move or an introvert? Because
Introvert,
as an
introvert.
extrovert, I can say
That's
I'll go dance on my own and like rock
Have
it.
have you seen one video that we take clips from with Richard socializing with someone else other than tearing them apart from the audience on stage?
That's
He
true.
isn't even making contact with somebody when he's shaking his booty. So the answer is, I believe, and it's only my
Introvert.
vote, is that he's an introvert.
That's
Which
right.
is okay.
Yeah.
Which is okay because a lot of cerebral types are
That's
introverted, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
Good point. Yeah.
And it's better for operational security, I believe, too. If he doesn't
Yeah.
have to be bar crawling all the time and in order to get his kicks.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's not to say that he doesn't get his share. Come on, we all fantasize
Absolutely.
of Richard being the ladies' man, but
yeah.
but I mean, just from a strictly type perspective, I think that he's fairly introverted. My 2 cents. And Richard would say, "Look at I have a Swarovski crystal for every time I've taken somebody's time, and they've thanked me for all the beautiful parties that I've thrown for all that." I mean, I don't think he's that type of guy. I think he's he's really into his head.
Yeah.
Nardo, it's normal to have fluctuations in your behavior on a seasonal basis, especially. And that the Myers-Briggs, I think the personality test was developed originally as a part of like army tactics to categorize people and match them up with the best profession in the army for World War II. And so it doesn't match up with reality all the way, but it's still a fun way to look at as we are, and we'll continue to debate Richard's personality. I think is a fun way to look at things and might be helpful to some people in terms of operating interpersonally in a more, like in a more effective way. Let's see. Any other comment? Okay, we're moving on. How do you prefer to take in information? You're a sensing type if you focus on the reality of how things are, pay attention to concrete facts and details, prefer ideas that have practical applications, like to describe things in a specific literal way, as opposed to the intuitive type, who imagines the possibilities of how things could be, notices the big picture, sees how everything connects, enjoys ideas and concepts for their own sake, and likes to describe things in a figurative, poetic way. So, what are we?
I am an N.
I'm an N.
I'm an N.
I'm an N.
Yes.
Everybody?
What
We
they
all
said.
N?
Yeah.
All intuitives?
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure.
N.
Across the board. I think there's probably a lot of intuitives in crypto because this dimension is determined by really how you get your information about the world and whether you get it through your experiences or you get it through your imagination and looking into the future. And so I think, if you simply based your decisions about crypto or, about whether to be in crypto or not based on, whether you got hit by the last bear market or not, right? There's always bear markets all the time. There's always corrections. Like your senses would be out of whack. And though the intuitives are able to really look for things that aren't there and see how the world could be in the future, basically.
So I have friends that that I try to explain crypto to, and they're like, "Oh, how does this cryptocurrency work? Does it is it like underwritten by a bank somewhere? You know,
Uh-huh.
it's like they can't get their head around this. The abstraction of
Yes.
of cryptocurrency from the fiat system. You know, they think in terms of everything as they are right now. You know.
Yes, that's an excellent description of
Yeah.
a sensor.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think one of the people that I know who makes the physical coins that have wallets embedded in them. Of course, that's bad for our operational security to let somebody else print our private key, but out of and so you always want to limit the amount of crypto that you put on something like that. But having a physical coin, I think, or even just having the design. So the company Cold Storage Coin, they are the ones who actually hold the copyright and developed the original Bitcoin logo that everybody's familiar with, that has the kind of digital circuit board in the background, right? The one that everybody knows for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And they came up with that, I don't know, I think it was in 2012 or 2013, but that went a long way, even though it was kind of a misnomer, right? But it helps people to connect the dots in their minds to, oh, this is it's like a physical coin, even though that's not what it is. What Kevin was saying, I think, relates to people being able to grasp it more concretely, maybe.
Well, I've got one little thing, Maddie. It just came out in the Japanese newspaper yesterday. My wife showed me that there seems to be a trend of a lot of people maybe that don't think this way, buying these physical coins on eBay or on Amazon, thinking that they've actually bought Bitcoin for $10.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that trend is happening again, but even more so in Japan. So they're like,
Wow.
"What do you mean I don't have Bitcoin? I gave this to my grandson or whatever." Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
That's
I've got Bitcoin.
Yep.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You got one Bitcoin. Look at that.
Yeah, I got one Bitcoin, man.
Man, you're rich, man. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm a rich mofo, man.
Yeah.
And of course, there were versions of coins that were similar that actually were minted once upon a time. That's when I got into crypto more than I had been in the past, right? Because I had a couple transactions early on, but I didn't understand the power of it until the price of crypto surpassed that of gold. So once one Bitcoin was worth more than 1 ounce of gold, then I was like, okay, I have to take this seriously. I have to learn everything I can about it. And so whenever I was at that point, they were still like BTC China was still producing physical Bitcoins, which was basically a poker chip with a private seed inside of it that was preloaded. Basically it's like a Genesis thing that had been mined directly to that wallet and was basically like virgin Bitcoin. And so those are weird because like the market for them is like, well, it's a collectible and it's a piece of history, but there's counterparty risk, and so it's.
So how do you read the private keys out? Or
you break the seal, and then you can sweep it into a wallet without. You can actually sweep it into a wallet without paying fees. There's a way to do that, but not all wallets allow you to do it. It's kind of interesting. But then the U.S. government made it illegal, essentially, to preload coins and sell them for dollars. And so if you're the person minting them, at least most specifically, and so now there's still companies like Cold Storage Coin that mint physical coins that are empty wallets, basically, and you can buy them and load them yourself if you want, or just have it as like a reminder of what you're dealing with.
So we don't hear about those guys that much anymore. I mean, Trezor and Ledger are the they're the gold standards now. I haven't heard about this, coin wallet from this cold storage company. Is it because there still is that, skepticism about the seal already being, that they already know all the seeds, or what's the deal? Why isn't that more popular?
I have no idea. I think it's so what they started making cards now, like Bobby Lee, who used to run BTC China and made he made a huge line of these coins, and they even, what's the website? They even made full blocks. So you could get a physical block, like a block of silver, and it literally has an entire block of Bitcoin on it. And they've been making these things forever.
Wow.
And so they have a good track record. So it's really, I think it adds a layer of complexity in the fact that the government made them illegal at the second half of 2017 or the beginning of 2018 to buy directly from a mint. They basically went around and started shutting down these mints because, again, these coins are even more untraceable, than anything else, because you can transfer them and you can at least see if the seal's broken. Maybe you would trust it, maybe you wouldn't, but also you can see there's some symbols on the outside that show you what wallet it is, like what the public address is. Let me see. They keep changing the name of what it is. I'm just gonna put Bobby Lee crypto card.
In the old days of Bitcoin, they used to have all of those tiny little coins that you could just stick they used to stick I think a private key and like a hologram on the top. And then they would give them out. Heaps of places, like a merchandising thing. And I think that might be...
Oh,
that one. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, so you can still get these from Amazon for like $20, $25. You can get them if you don't want one that's been sitting around a warehouse. You can order them directly from the company, and they'll ship them out of Singapore or Thailand or something.
Oh,
she looks very grateful.
oh,
Of course,
how sweet.
they're best friends now.
Bitcoin instead of Tiffany.
Who's the other woman though in blue? She seems a little bit put off. She didn't get anything.
Oh, they'll be okay.
And that's a fake smile. She is not happy to have that picture.
Yeah.
Nope.
So then there are more advanced solutions that have been developed. So this is Bobby Lee's, and so they even say here that there's over $100 million worth of crypto that's been secured by the whole history of BTC China, which ended up becoming Ballet Crypto. And now these are all empty, but in the past they used to sell them full. And there's a super interesting option. I wonder if they still have it on here. So they have a Pro series that allows you to come up with your own encryption after you get it. So that's another layer of security basically that was missing that would be needed. And so that's super interesting. It's at the point where it's like pretty expensive, but the cool thing is these are fireproof too. And they're tamper evident, not tamper proof, but tamper evident.
So what's the composition of the card? What's it made out of to be fireproof?
Are these fireproof? I know I just said that. I think they are. I know the other coins better than
it's
I
pretty
know these.
meltable to me. I think the coin. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe these aren't. Maybe it's just the coins.
Those look pretty plastic.
Yeah, they do, right?
Well, these are that's. I mean, I've got one here. It's metal. It's made out of metal.
It's metal.
But I don't think it's punched in. I think it's just a sticker. So that kind of sucks.
You gotta etch it in.
And so let me see. So there is one for ETH, so you can set up one of these and have HEX on it and stake it if you want. If you're importing it into MetaMask, and I've done that with the coins before. So I have coins that I've gifted people that already had 15-year stakes on them. So that's kind of cool.
We need
Very cool.
cards like that for the next HEX conference that we can just hand out to people.
And so this is the really cool thing. Is you can get a whole Bitcoin block.
Wow.
These are very expensive these days, but
Yeah.
they've been doing them for many years, and they used to have ones that were like 12.5 Bitcoin. See, those are the poker chip coins that they used to offer, and those are in bits. So it's really cool. But this is kind of, I mean, this is kind of a side note, but it's speaking more to the fact of like how to make something that's so digital, how to make it concrete for people who are sensors rather than intuitives. So let's see, in the chat, people are saying, I got a completely different answer years ago. Since becoming a mom, I went from extrovert to introvert.
Me too.
I can see that.
Was that a tough time for you, Papa? Or
It was. My gosh, my butt hurts so bad.
Are you
God damn
the
it.
mother figure to your cat?
Yeah, no. I'm a step parent at best. Evil
Let's see.
stepfather.
Humans can hold contradicting beliefs and thoughts and feelings at the same time. Influenced by culture, that's spot on. Tests were made by psychologists to make money, to sell them to companies. There's what was it? There's a joke. Let's see. Neurotics build castles in the sky. Psychotics live in them, and psychologists collect the rent.
I love that. It's great.
that's great.
That's from A General Theory of Love, which is an outstanding book that blends art and neuroscience and poetry and all kinds of crazy stuff.
What's the name of that book?
A General Theory of Love. I'm sure you can find it for free on pdfdrive.com. You can get almost any book there for free in PDF form. pdfdrive.com.
Thanks, Manny.
Yeah. Okay, people are jumping ahead and they're saying that they're the campaigner, which is your profile at the end. So moving on. Wow, we're all intuitives, right? Very interesting. And so now we'll move on to the third dimension.
Oh, should we go back and speculate what
Richard.
Richard's type is?
Okay.
So I'll write this down. What are we thinking Richard is for the first one? He's an
Introvert.
introvert.
I
All right.
And then
Then
I've got my guess. What do you guys think?
It's hard because I can see him being both.
Yeah, I see him being 2 points of each one.
Mm.
Then I vote for that line in the middle.
Yeah, that's how as you guys know, that's how when you do the full test, that's how the results come out is I think your percentage on a spectrum. And so some people, they are ambidextrous. This one though is important for you to figure out what category you're on. Cause if you don't answer this one, more in one direction than another, it's going to be hard because this really diverges the personalities a lot in how the results are played out. Yeah, you're right. Like, you know, Richard, he does pay attention to details, right? And he was trained, right? When he went to school, he was trained very much in logic, right? And so that gives him the ability to work on things that have practical applications and but also to have kind of be insight driven as well, right? Does he enjoy concepts for their own sake? It seems like it. Because he seems so knowledgeable about them, right?
Yeah.
Does he describe things in a figurative or poetic way?
Depends how you define poetic, I would say.
I feel like he's generally more literal, but special cases like when he's trying to warn us of scams or you know like shit coins. He'll use figurative language to indirectly tell us about them and avoid mentioning them by name. So he can channel that in when he feels like it.
Speaking of channeling, I just got this crazy flash of Richard watching this video and sitting on his throne going, retards, you know I'm an N. God damn it, and
My poetry
like a game
pop-up.
show. Oh yeah,
Sounds exactly like what he would say.
right? It's like this is a game show to him. You know, he doesn't watch any of those silly shows. He's watching our videos, going, "Oh, look, they're psychoanalyzing me today. This ought to be good."
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you're all getting scored by Richard right now, so make sure you get it correct, you know.
I would love it if Richard is sitting at home doing our individual personalities.
Yeah. I really, he imagines the possibilities. He has, you know, connected the dots, right? He's the visionary more than the realist. But you have to, in some ways, be a realist to be able to innovate. So I'm guessing N, but
I'm guessing S on this one.
really,
I actually think he's more on the S side. I think.
okay, because he bases his reality on facts, not how things could be, but how things are.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, often he's known for speaking the truth, even if it isn't pleasant to hear. So, yeah.
All right,
The
I see
other
that.
thing that I lean more towards S on is the details. I mean, Hex is such a well thought out, multi-layered game theory extravaganza that he's thought out so much in this that we're still figuring out. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To be fair, he did have some help in that regard, with from
That's
people
true.
from from people like Kyle and
From Kyle.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
so there's a bit of a team effort there.
I think
Yeah.
Kyle, if you're talking about Kyle, then definitely S.
Yeah.
If you want to add Kyle in the equation, then it's definitely S.
Okay,
All right,
so did everybody vote? I don't know. You guys are kind of swaying me a little bit.
My vote is S, but
Yeah. So far, I'm IS for Richard.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Consensus wins. Now here's another one that people would be more familiar with than the two that are less known, the judging and perceiving and the sensing and intuition, is going to be thinking versus feeling. And so this is usually pretty simple for people to see, but it can actually be hard for some types. So we'll go through it here. If you're thinking, you make decisions in an impersonal way using logical reasoning. You value justice and fairness. You enjoy finding the flaws in an argument, and you could be described as reasonable and level-headed. Whereas if you're a feeling type, you base your decisions on personal values and how your actions affect others. You value harmony and forgiveness. You like to please others and point out the best in people, and you could be described as warm and empathic.
Is this for
Dun, dun,
us
dun.
now? Is this us now?
So yeah, what are we?
That's first.
Oh yeah, T. Screw feeling, folks. Yeah, for me, I don't get along
Oh
with them.
yikes!
I hold a grudge. I argue like a bastard, and yeah, I don't get all warm fuzzy. I say, all right, well, do your thing, get it done, and don't bother me with it. Thanks.
Ross
I'm an
is
F.
S.
An F.
You're an F.
Yeah, I'm an F.
I would say
I'm an
more
F.
of an F.
Okay. So this is a good one to explain, because for me, I've taken this many times in my life, and this is the one where I'm ambidextrous on. And so as a scientist, when I'm doing more things in a laboratory, when I'm measuring things, when I'm around other people who are T's, then I slant slightly towards T. And when I'm in my therapist role, listening to people's feelings and working with them in that regard, then I skew, probably probably 60% feeling. And so this is one, it actually depends on how I'm spending all my time. And so that's another kind of aspect that can be, that can exist if you're ambidextrous, and then whatever environment you're in might change how you display. But in the Myers-Briggs, I mean, the way I've always heard it is, you can kind of, if you're truly ambidextrous, if you're really getting a 50% on one of these scales, then you really need to pay attention to both of the types that you would fall into. So I'm an ENFTP, and the F and the T are depending kind of on what environment I'm in.
Are we supposed to be writing stuff down, or are we supposed to just be committing it to memory, or are we? What are we supposed to do, Maddie? Am I supposed to be doing something?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you what.
Damn it!
There will be a test at the end.
Did that a further test? Yeah.
Pop quiz.
I was told there was going to be sandwiches served here today. I came for the luncheon.
The only things I have written down, Papa, just to ease your mind on that, is I'm writing down what I think Richard is.
Yeah.
So just the letters, and I've got written down what I am. That's it.
Okay, so I agree with all your stuff. So I'm glad you're taking notes for both of us.
I'm writing down what the audience in the chat is. So
ooh, I like that.
We can
wow!
Look at that. So
make a list.
The chat's reporting you can buy Bitcoin at Bath and Body. What?
Bed Bath and Beyond.
I'm lost.
That was the lady in the picture, Maddie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
That's more frequently.
That's good. That's great, Ross. That's funny. I get it. I get it.
The lady in the blue accidentally bought BSV.
Oh man, HEX says BMI.
About governments outlawing crypto so they can push their own version. What they're doing is they're trying to stop capital outflows, right? Because that's a threat to their sovereignty and their economy. And so in any fiat system, like, they're extracting wealth from people in lots of different ways by taxing, but also by inflating the currency. And so that's they lose their power when you take away their control of the entire monetary system. Other countries have what are called capital controls, which are rules that say that they're going to put you in a metal cage and lock you up for so many years if you don't follow the rules about how money can flow from place to place. And so that's even one use case for crypto, right? Is the idea that it creates freedom, and freedom isn't loved by people who are in control and who are abusing people's freedom. And so, so I think, so the question is, who will win in the long term? I think it'll be a good fight. I think what we'll see is crypto will become really a surveillance tool before it becomes a freedom tool. But that the powers to be, they will probably buy in by thinking that they are going to have more control, but then the control could slip away easily, as we would see with, like, if Facebook coin comes out in the next 5 weeks and it gets everybody used to the idea of, oh, now I have, numbers in a different app than my Bank of America app. Now I have them in my Facebook app, and I'm comfortable sending something back and forth that people are telling me is cryptocurrency, but it's not actually cryptocurrency because it's not cryptic/private. It's not decentralized. I think that could backfire on the powers to be.
What's the psychology about outlawing something and then every 4 months reopening up the market for, let's say, India? which seems to close and open like a swinging door. What's the deal? Why do countries do that?
That's a really good question. So probably for the elites, probably to give them a window to acquire, and really, I mean, probably also changing of power to some extent, and also testing, like A/B testing what happens. I think those would all be good reasons for them to be flip-flopping.
Yeah.
Excellent question. Because that's what we see, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always make sense that they're switching back and forth between them.
I think for India and Nigeria, I think they're following the example of China, which is I think they should be getting. I think they're pretty close to getting their digital coin for the yuan out pretty soon. I think they've been doing a lot of beta testing on their side. So yeah, I think it's just playing catch up because China has, as you know, has banned crypto since early last year or December or January last year. So yeah, so I think they're just playing catch up. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who still don't understand crypto for what it really is. I mean, I saw a thing this morning about Bill Gates saying that, that cryptocurrency is one of the things that the world could do without. It's like, what the hell are you saying, man?
He's friends with, he's buddies with Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah.
So Buffett, he doesn't get crypto yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Warren Buffett's. Go ahead.
So I mean, Warren Buffett just bought his tech stocks like recently, only recently. He's been in like Coca-Cola and all that for decades. He's only started to get into tech, and now you're talking about crypto. It's like, you can't get his mind over there. Yeah.
You can kind of go ahead, Puppy. You're next.
Oh no, I was just I have a real issue with Warren Buffett. Of course, obviously we all kind of do, but I went back and I listened to that very famous interview where he describes crypto or Bitcoin as rat poison squared. And his arguments, though, applied to HEX, just don't hold water anymore. Nor a good many of the third generation cryptos out there as well. The question is he quick enough? He certainly has already shown that he's not quick enough to make any pivots to actually take advantage of these new emerging type of technologies. But his organization is now, or his fund is now, actually intertwined with crypto, be it on the DOT ecosystem or other ERC-20 tokens are kind of seeping into his portfolio, whether he wants it or knows it. So, I guess Warren's got to take another look at HEX because it definitely solves all the problems that he had with Bitcoin.
It's interesting to see where people are in, waking up to crypto. Someone like Michael Saylor, who's only joined the party in the last year, there's layers of it as well. Do you think like they were waiting for so long to get in just to see how things would play out, or like he's 10 years late to a party that's already been going on for a decade? Like
even Peter Schiff tweeted that he might be going to Bitcoin. So imagine that.
I think
he really?
Still have a photo on my phone of Peter Schiff on Twitter. Like with the day that he said, like he owns Bitcoin. Yeah. He's got Bitcoin.
He's got
actually last year, I think it was last year, Justin Sun of Tron actually had a dinner with Warren Buffett, and he said he even gave him like Bitcoin and some other crypto. But then when he was asked about it later by some news anchor, he said he didn't own any. So I don't know what the deal is there.
Well, let's be clear. Justin Sun paid $4 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was invited in. It was like Warren Buffett was forced to have lunch with
Didn't really have a choice.
Right.
But they rescheduled
let's get this
to
over
create
with.
multiple hype cycles.
Yeah.
Oh, you think it was on purpose?
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you pay $4 million to have like headlines, why not double your headlines, right?
Yeah.
2x your exposure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like how you think, Manning.
It was interesting to see that unfold, and I like my thinking continues to develop. And those of you who are watching the Quant Gang, we're like breaking new ground with some of the ideas that we're putting together about how you can look at the future market supply of HEX and then position yourself accordingly. I mean, Richard talks about this, right? But we're actually going to be looking at the graphs, and we have been, and understanding kind of what it means, because you should be able to map the minimum cost of a T-share like 1,000 years into the future. Because that's explained somewhat in some of those streams that go on for hours and hours. So people who are wanting to understand super deep levels of HEX, we're trying to do that. And then I'm going to be doing separate shows that are therapy focused, and then separate shows that are hopefully to onboard new people who don't understand anything about HEX. And one of the things that I ran across today that I just wanted to mention is Conrad Zen put out a program, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he had a 15-minute clip in the middle, which basically like helps me understand how money works. And like, I never felt like I fully understood it. I knew about the Federal Reserve, I knew about Jekyll Island, I knew about all these different things, but there is such an excellent description. I'm going to see if I can. I mean, I would literally even risk my channel getting deleted just to get this 15-minute video out, which is how mind-blowing it was for me.
Wow.
How helpful it was. And so kind of taking some of those ideas of understanding the Federal Reserve like actually has shareholders, and they get paid a dividend, and you don't actually know who the owners are, but you can kind of guess based on who owns the banks, and the banks are the ones that are creating money out of thin air and then charging it to the future taxpayers of the world, right? But so that made me start to have deeper thoughts about why is it that some people like Warren Buffett can like not have a little bit of exposure to crypto, because it seems like you would almost have to if you were, in control of so many resources. Why wouldn't you have a little bit of everything, right? Mm-hmm. But then it made me realize, and again, we can go into this in like future talks when we're not, just on personality, but just the idea that if you have a monopoly on healthcare and utilities, then you really, it doesn't matter if you're not in something, because you're going to just be raising the price of energy and raising the price of healthcare, and then you're going to get whatever new money exists, right? So, but the problem with that thinking, and why HEX actually brilliantly solves this, is if you have $1 billion, you can't buy into HEX. There's not enough liquidity. And you run the risk that you pump it so much that the people who hold it, the T-shares, become so wealthy instantly that they don't need to sell all of their crypto. And so the actual, even because up until a point, if people become extremely wealthy overnight, like let's just say you get millions, like, then people might rush to sell that. But if they overshoot it, and each of us becomes 100 millionaires or billionaires in a year, right? Like if that happens too fast, then we might not have to sell our crypto to them. And that would be the normal market mechanism that would allow people to like basically, start manipulating the markets and like buy some and then dump a little, be able to buy it back cheaper, and have bots that are, front running everything and market making. This whole invention of a automated market maker, decentralized exchanges and stuff, this is all brand new. And so if they don't have teams of people who are understanding this and who already own a lot of HEX, like, good luck finding, like, maybe you're going to have to find Richard, you know, and get his seed words, because there's really not another way to get into it.
Holy crap, Maddie. That's such a crazy dimension I never thought of before. Can you imagine what the happy medium would be, what the sweet spot would be, and the size of the whale to actually get involved in HEX? Because now they have to think about that, right?
Like, yeah, that's what we're going to be modeling in the Quant Gang, because I have been thinking these thoughts for a while. I always have a need to like understand HEX on a more deep macroeconomic and like fundamental level. But I haven't been very good at like pulling data. Like Wales can pull data super easily into his charting programs. And then Kareem is actually really good at knowing what resources there are. Like he identified that on, is it Hex.vision, that there's like a pink background line, and that's showing what the future supply of HEX is. So we figured out that there are certain things that we're going to be able to model that are part of this idea of leaving meat on the bone for people who are just the right size to get in. But
right.
There won't, I think we calculated on the second episode that there can't be more than like 10 or 15 whales to get in. Or maybe it was even, was it sharks? Or I think, I think only 15 new sharks could get in without pumping the price 100x. But then the reverse of that is how the users behave. So like if people start end staking, but if people's stakes are so spread out that they only have to do one end stake to take advantage of HEX at $1, you might get a lot less HEX than you think you're going to get by pumping the price and trying to basically get people out. Because like how Facebook did that, they bought WhatsApp for like a ridiculous amount of money, but then that set the market price of like the company. And so really what they were doing is kind of cheating. And that's what happens at big scales. You know, if you make a market, then even if you buy into it, now if you have a monopoly or if you have something that's so scarce, right, then you're defining the price of it. But that's only but it would go much higher if you didn't really control enough of it. So I don't know if any of that's making sense, but it's something to think about.
That just blew my goddamn mind, Maddie. Like that's set off a chain of thoughts in my mind now that I'm going to be like thinking about for the next week.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so HEX is the first like thing that's digital that can't be copied like Bitcoin, but that also has a monetary supply that's known and controlled by math. It's more secure than Bitcoin because in Bitcoin, you have to maintain social consensus in order to enforce the math. But in HEX, you don't have to do that to enforce the math because it's locked. It's a smart contract that doesn't get run by a bunch of nodes that decide what the real Bitcoin is. When Bitcoin split, like the nodes had to decide, oh, I'm going to be a Bitcoin Cash node or I'm going to be a Bitcoin node, right? Yeah. And the whole reason why it split is probably because there was an operation to like socially hack the consensus of the network, right? You're still trusting humans in a similar way as you are with politics. You know, it's majority wins, but in HEX, that's not how it is. HEX is a code and the code doesn't change. And so that's a factor. And then to be able, it's just like, there's so many like
layers of complexity that are stacked and stacked and stacked.
Stacked on top of each other,
It's spaghetti psychology.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's you know, there are a lot of influencers, you know, who are saying now we need to do outbound messaging, like, and I'm with that. I want to do that too, but I also want to keep getting together with all the great minds and personalities that we have inside of HEX to really be able to understand the economics of it going forward. Because even myself, you know, with my strong hands, you know, I have my little 2% of hex liquid, like, you know, I've like been tempted to like sell a little bit of that whenever I hear about things like tradable shares that like scares me, because that seems like it would break the economics. But I think in the end, that's not hex. And so it's just like, if you copy and paste hex to something else, that's not hex either. And, but layer 2 could even create things that are even more valuable, such as, you know, you could write a code that you put your seed words into, which you're never going to give your seed words out to anybody. But if there's like 4 lines of code and it was audited by everybody, and like all it did was basically lock your seed words longer than, you know, like it's a second layer to where you can't even emergency end stake. You're controlling yourself to that degree. There are really interesting, I think, things that can still work into hex and make it for us to understand really how scarce hex is. I think we're still discovering that. We're still in the price discovery and the scarcity discovery phase.
You mentioned there, just quickly, Maddie, you know, talking about Bitcoin, and there is still a human element with Bitcoin. It's the ability to get into the markets and mess things up, or, you know, do all these off the books orders and whatever they do. There's like, yes, there is that element in Hex, but I feel like Hex has less of a human element of fuckery in there, where it's like, okay, this is just code. You can't. There are only certain things you can do with the automated market maker that in Bitcoin, with the centralized markets, you can just mess around with that way more. You can manipulate to the nth degree.
You could scare people to sell their Bitcoin, but you can't scare, you know, people to sell their Hex always, because it might be locked, and there's an incentive for it to be locked. And so even if we all freaked out, you know, for me, I'd only be able to sell like 2% of my stack, right? And so,
Yeah.
so there's probably, but definitely the fact that the low liquidity has been engineered, I believe, in favor of the holders, in favor of people who are small, who got in early. And I think that the game theory, the true game theory of Hex, will continue to unfold in ways that are probably unexpected, even to our understanding when we had the first Hex conference. I think that I think of it as like worlds that Richard has created for us to like gameplay through, like
yes,
some sort of video
I was on the
game.
couch the other night falling asleep, and like halfway in between that, like sleepy and conscious, and I just had this thought of like, man, like Richard really has created like a dream for us to all participate in together and like wander through his vision, like wander through his dream. Like thinking about Hex like that is like, you know, you got the game theory, but that's like poetry, you know, like
yes. One of my pieces of evidence for this, that Richard has created something that he hasn't like told us fully about in the like how brilliant Hex is that you know, the website just got updated the other day. Well, I went back and I accidentally started playing a video of Richard and Hexo, like whenever they did their interview, and Richard was talking about how he intentionally made the website look bad so that people who judge projects or products based on how early they're getting to that, that would be more appealing to them. And so that was one of the phases, was to have a website that intentionally sucked in order to draw in more investment.
Trolling, yeah. I think there was a lot of trolling and thought process behind testing us every step of the way.
Yeah.
He's a puppet master for sure.
And so if we think about like another dimension of Hex that hasn't been talked about a lot, is the fact that the OA that has 80 or 85% of the coins instead of 51% of the coins, which is what I believe like Hex was developed to do, was to have basically a protection against a fork. So the OA could defend against a fork by always having 51%. But the fact that the OA has more than that makes us think that some of the ETH was recycled to make the market so that Hex didn't dip so low that like one of us could have bought 1 billion Hex and then we would have been tempted to dump it on the market all along the way. So instead, the OA was there making the price a little bit higher than it would have been naturally, or making some price action that would shake out weak hands. It would make it so that there was less Hex available for people to sell later on in the early phase here. But then also that's like those Genesis coins are being distributed to us in the form of 30 to 60% APY. And so that's really genius to distribute coins based on how long people are believing the project for. That I haven't seen done in other projects, where the question has always been, even with Bitcoin, how do I distribute this to multiple people and then not have them dump it on the market when it becomes valuable? How do you, and so many projects, even the founders, they keep a percentage of the coins. And then once it hits, several $1 million to $100 million, then they exit scam, just because that's almost the game theory of how humans act. Even if they didn't start out wanting to do that. So the fact that like that the OA is just giving away coins, right? That's I think that's really innovative.
And you can see like there's micro versions of that, and then there's macro versions of that. So like big payday was kind of like a micro version of that, where depending on how long you staked out, like your bonus would change. So,
Yes.
if you were staked out 10 years, you'd get 3x. Now, that's a micro example of that macro thing, where it's like, okay, the macro guys and the guys in it for 15 years, they're going to get like 60% APY on their stakes, and that's great. But also through big payday, the macro guys are going to get 3x. So, we see one level of it, and then another level is revealed, and another level is revealed, and another level is revealed. And that's, I think we're catching a few of the things now that are potentially going to happen, like in the future. And this is another layer of the game theory. I mean, when we get to year 4, year 8, some of these people are going to emergency end stakes, and we're going to see these massively huge emergency end stakes, and the penalties get paid out to the staking class. So, it's a redistribution model, like all the time, in favor of the people who are the long-term believers, or the long-term holders, want to see the project, live for 15 years or longer. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's Hex.vision that's showing the future market supply, which doesn't exist in Bitcoin, where people are locked in for this amount of time. And so it's like Richard says, he said the other day, all right, for me, I see people on Twitter, they're upset about how their staking ladder was had too many rungs on it, and so they're paying lots of fees. They have $100 stake coming out now, and it's costing them $75 to unstake, right? I sympathize with that, but I don't think you should talk down your own bags when it comes to that. You just have to recognize how many people they left their coins on Mt. Gox, right? You got it right. You maybe you knew that Bitcoin was going to be valuable, but you just had bad luck. What other way did you have to get Bitcoin other than through Mt. Gox? And who is telling you it's okay to leave it there? Probably everybody at the time, right? The game changes, people learn. And so, I feel for people, but I think this is part of leaving meat on the bone. Is Hex not, Richard didn't explain all this in the beginning, but he also hasn't given you bad advice. Okay. So that's the point I want to make, is that you might hear, you might hear me say something and then it turns out to be bad for you. You might have heard people who were earlier on. If I was streaming in the beginning, I would have given you bad advice probably, right? Because the game changed and we didn't know how this was all going to play out. I got lucky though, and I made few stakes, maybe 3 a year coming out. But I wish I would have done more at the end. What Richard said the other day, right? And again, like I bought probably the lowest point in 2021 at like 30% of a penny because Richard said, "Oh, it seems like the price doesn't dip below that." And I was like, "Oh shit, I need to buy." Like that's a signal, right? Yep. Richard said the other day, he said, "Fill in the gaps of the future market supply." So here on a Hex.Vision, you can see where the gaps are. You can literally see this is where all the stakes are coming out. And so anywhere where there aren't stakes coming out, that means the supply of Hex is bound to be extremely, extremely rare. And so the USD price appreciation could pump more during that time if people don't pile in after you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Maddie, you've touched on something incredible. Can I just interject one
Please.
thing?
Yeah.
I'm amazed at how long it takes to plot out and how often I'm staring at my staking ladder. I mean, I like put it on the screen. It's a wonder that it's not burnt into my TV now because I just sit there and like fall asleep to it. I'm like, how can I have done this better? And I always regretted for the longest time before I started sharing with people what it looked like, that it was, too many different strategies laid out. And it was like, jack of all trades but master of none type of philosophy. And I was absorbing from every other hexagon that would broadcast. I'd say, oh, I got to put that into my staking ladder. But then I found out, just like these complainers now, I'm one of them that says, I've got too many short-term stakes coming out over the next year, and I'm paying too much gas. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, I'm not pissed off about the money. I'm pissed off about for unstaking. I'm pissed off about the time and effort it takes to get the best price and to get it unstaked. So I'm more salty about that. That's my fault. That's a psychological issue. It's not a monetary issue. It's the fact that I'm engaged in what is supposed to be a simple and mundane CD, but it's turned out to be this huge game, right? This massively intricate game. And maybe I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's a huge onion that we're constantly peeling back. But the comedy of the entire thing is that it's designed to benefit you just incrementally better. If you play it better, you're still going to win, right? But the more you delve deeper into the psychology, into the games, into the staking ladder and all this other stuff, you could win so much bigger if you understand what Richard's little breadcrumbs are, or what people like Hodl Dog shares with you his entire process by which he does have these short stakes, and he's given the flexibility to kick things out in little increments. And if you didn't have a short stake for this next year, you wouldn't be afforded that ability to do it unless you had Liquid Hex, the only other option.
Yeah. So it's with Hex, you have more data really than ever, and you have a community that's really trying to figure it all out together in real time as things are developing, right? And so I think it is very consuming because you get the headlines that like Hex is going to be bigger and better than Bitcoin, right? And now you're early, and now you're like, oh wow, like what do I need to do? And I think even if there wasn't anything to do, I think we would create things to do, because first of all, there's this weird thing where like, so far on paper you're getting rich. It's like you feel like you should be doing more. Like you feel like you should be doing something to deserve that, right? And then you have like all these people who maybe have a background with trading or even a background with crypto where it's gone up a lot. And so you've got a lot of history to deal with, and you've got like even maybe like some some addiction to like charts, right? And so that's going to transfer over, and Hex was designed kind of to make you stop looking at charts to trade with a zero-sum game, but like still maybe to entertain you or to like cause you to maybe come up with more productive strategies, or you could still use your intelligence, I think, in Hex more so than in trading, right? Because it's not just a game. So instead of making the game, and this is interesting, I always understand Hex better when I talk to y'all smart people. It's kind of like, you know, you're not just playing with the other guy on the other end of the trade where it's a zero-sum game. So if I get the trade right by luck, basically, then somebody else loses money. Or if they get it right, then I lose money. And really all we're doing is making exchanges rich. You're basically playing a game with your future self, right? And so that's the person you're trading against. And, you know, like you said, people are going to win if Hex does what it's designed to do, which is to appreciate in value, right? And to monetize the time value of money. Like, you know, it's going to be really good. But like, again, you're going to have that human nature to want to optimize that. And all of your decisions, like, they're going to be magnified by how successful Hex is. So it's another like force multiplier almost, right? Is like, you've got the force multipliers of like, you know, you're getting compounded interest plus Hex is becoming more scarce. So it's the USD prices appreciating, and then it's like, it's paired with Ethereum to some extent still. So like, you're getting that pump going in there too. And so there's all these pumpamentals, the network effect, you know, Metcalfe's law partially defines how valuable a network is. And so there are all these things that are happening. And so then there's that other dimension as well of,
I said it before, I'll say it again. My future self is such a dick.
is it your past self or your future self?
My future self is such a dick, man. It's like he gives me nothing. I give him everything. He's such a taker. He doesn't give me any goddamn thing. Not a damn penny. He doesn't give me anything.
So you've delayed gratification more than you'd like to admit.
Yeah.
More than your present self would prefer.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, I've scrimped on hair products and you know, a wardrobe and a
your
background.
Hair looks great.
Oh, thank you. You like that?
Here's an interesting thought, right? If Hex was a book, like Richard says it is, you know, he thinks ETH is a typewriter and Hex is the novel that gets written on ETH.
Cool.
If there were 15 chapters in the book, one for every year of the first 15 years, we're in chapter 2 right now. There's a whole, you know, 80% of a story that's still left to be told. And the smartest among us in the Hex community, they're trying to figure out what the next 13 years are going to be in this thing. And that's genius to me. That's like, we're so early still. We're still so early, and there's so much game theory that hasn't revealed itself yet, or, you know, where this adventure will take any of us. It's interesting. Like, Richard drops those things for a reason. He says that stuff purposefully. It's going to be interesting to wander through the next 15 years of that story and see where it takes us.
And that's just volume 1.
That's right.
That is volume 1.
Curses.
You guys, the book that Richard wrote, like the first book that he wrote, I think he's written more than one book, but Sci-Vive is 750 pages. So yeah, this is going to be a long one. And the story of Hex. It's another point that I wanted to make. If we take a step back and look at the psychology of these high fees, right? That's another situation that actually could be leaving meat on the bone for medium-sized investors. Because if you think about it, people who can only afford or only want to put in $100 into Hex, right? Either it's they don't believe in it and they haven't done all their homework, right, to know how special it is, or it's people who really they need all their money, so that's all they can spare. And so those people, if the price of HEX appreciates a lot, right, they're going to be more likely to sell than the people who are middle income, right? And so being able to, and then there's the super high net worth individuals who, you know, they're going to want to play they're going to want to control the market and like, you know, exploit it, but they can't get in because of the low liquidity. And so there's like these two forces that are almost creating like the perfect staking class, I think. And that's it's beautiful how it's coming together. I just blows my mind.
There's things today that, you know, are being said on this stream that is just, my mind's going off in these little wanders through these thoughts. I'm gonna have to dig a lot deeper into I like when you said earlier, Maddie, about trying to continually go deeper and deeper and deeper into the understanding of what HEX is. Yeah.
There's a lot there. It's not.
I haven't found the edge yet.
All the layers and sub layers. Yeah.
This is not. It's more of a think tank than an echo chamber. What we're doing right now, right? Because for me, my personality, I don't always have these ideas when I'm just like sitting around. Sometimes I do, but it's like the process of discussing it with people then allows me to understand it better. Some people they can come up with ideas without talking them out, right? But for me, I do my best thinking when I'm in discussion with smart people such as yourselves.
Agreed.
So thank you. We have breaking news. Is this? I'm not sure if Kevin maybe has already done the research on this, but somebody says 52 million just emergency end staked, 55 out of 340.
What's the effect?
Are you
There's
serious?
there's a dump going on. We're down
So that
to-
could be this could be a major hack that happened, huh?
No.
Or somebody who didn't read the rules. But that's a lot of, what is that? $500,000 worth, or is it $50,000?
Yeah.
$500,000.
If you go on Staker app, it's I think 464K. Yeah, it's nearly $500,000.
How much got nuked?
Lost penalty was 34.3K.
That's nothing. It's a rounding
that it?
error.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Well, it must not have been a 55 day out of 340, because if you're under 90 days, don't you get nuked?
No, if the initial stake was under 90 days.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, his initial stake was 340 days. So yeah, so he only got nuked about 30%.
Oh,
No. Yeah. 30%. It's not a lot, but there's a dump going on. So
Yeah.
Nice.
We're down to 8.85 of a K.
nice.
Nice.
So
Time to buy.
time to buy.
Exactly. Do you find it weird when people are like, my mentality now is triggered for both. Like, if we dump, hell yeah. If we pump, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's like that whale mentality that Richard's trying to teach you, where it's, you know, if it dips, buy it.
Buy
Just
it. Yeah.
scoop it the hell up. I got to front run you all now. I'm gonna buy on screen right now.
No. Pardon me, Maddie, for just a second. I'm going to turn my camera off so I can plug in.
Sure. So it's a transfer of wealth from the impatient to the patient.
Yeah, it's
Did anyone see that? Also, Hex Live, I think is like offline now today.
Hex.live.
Yeah, it's
It is?
showing an old price now.
oh
Yeah,
and
I
not
heard
updating.
they're completely shutting down at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're definitely off the topic of personalities, but I think still it's these interesting rabbit holes are just too exciting to avoid.
Yeah.
Maybe we can finish out the personality topic and then circle back around if there's anything else that needs to be said about these recent developments and thoughts about the game theory of hex. So we've got thinking and feeling. Okay, and you guys are mostly, well, we already said, right? Hex Mac is feeling, and then everybody else is thinking. Vince, what are you?
I would say I'm more of a feeling type, actually.
Okay, feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it split? 1, 2, 3. Well, we have 5
Thinking.
people.
Oh yeah, the Papa's T.
I'm a T.
Kevin's thinking.
I'm a feeling. I'm
Feeling.
F.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm an F.
And a Hex Mac.
I am a feeling.
Okay.
I think
I am
Kevin.
an INF so far.
I think Kevin would probably agree with me that part of it's also a cultural thing.
Yeah, the value, harmony, and forgiveness part, I think, and basing your decisions on personal values and how your actions affect others. I think it's a very Asian thing, and a very Japanese thing. I think Papa B. Would,
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
masquerade as an F to blend in, but I'm definitely a T.
yeah. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
So, how many 5 stakes?
If we're gonna bounce, everyone, make sure you buy that dip.
Yeah. Like whoever's selling, keep selling so I can
Selling.
buy
Yeah.
the dip.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah, we're about to hit that imaginary line going up. If this guy keeps selling,
Mhm.
I think we're gonna see a bounce. So
We were above it still?
yeah.
Oh wow. Nice.
So the line, and I think if I'm not wrong, the line should be around 0.78. Yeah. So no financial advice, guys.
Of course.
Not financial or therapy advice.
Yep.
Let's see. So okay, so we've got thinking versus feeling, and then go ahead with your secret ballots. And Richard, what is he?
Richard, T.
I think
Yep.
T too.
T.
Yeah. I'm also gonna
One
go T.
trick, if you try to imagine what the person would say, and would they use the word I think or I feel before they drop some knowledge or talk about something?
Think.
Think.
I
Yeah,
feel
he's
like
definitely a
we've heard
thinker.
Richard say I think more often, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Could say that.
Okay, and then here's the last one that's a little bit misunderstood, I think, because judging sometimes has a negative connotation, but in this case, it's none of this is a negative. And actually, if you're a judging type, then you're not going to leave as many messes as the next person. You're going to be more organized, and so I think again, this is a old, outdated test that's fun if it matches up, but don't get stuck on the stigma of that. How do you prefer to live your outer life? If you're judging, you prefer to have matters settled. So once you cut somebody out of your life, they stay out of your life. You think rules and deadlines should be respected. You prefer to have detailed step-by-step instructions. You make plans and want to know what you're getting into. Versus the perceiving personality type prefers to leave your options open, sees rules and deadlines as flexible, likes to improvise and make things up as you go, and you're spontaneous and enjoy surprises and new situations.
Ooh, surprises.
Panel?
So I did the test twice. So when I first did the test, I was a J. Okay. So when I did it the second time, I became a P. So
Huh. What were your percentages on those?
Do
Do you remember?
don't remember. I got it.
Okay.
Gotta go back and look. So yeah, it's very borderline. Yeah, it's very
Okay.
borderline.
Very ambidextrous. Yes.
Yeah, both sides.
Interesting. For me, I'm a clear P. I
You're a clear P. You should get more kale in your diet.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's partly due to being well hydrated, and that if you see that I'm organized, then that's due to a lot of effort on my part, and not my natural way. So.
Yeah.
How about everybody else?
I
Judging
am
or
a-
pursuing?
I'm a J.
You're J.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a J too.
I'm more of a P, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So we now have all the letters that you need in order to fit into one of the 16 categories. And did anybody find that theirs matched up really well with reality? That their description was fitting them? Oh, wait, we have to do Richard. Richard, judging or pursuing?
Oh, yep. Good call, Maddie. There's some things that make me think. Again, it's one of those split things. The
Spill the
deadlines
tea.
thing. Hex in 4 weeks. Hex in 4 weeks. Hex in 4 weeks.
But it's it's in 4 weeks, but being a software since I'm doing software, I agree that software is hard. So deadline,
I think that part of it was out of his control.
True.
Absolutely.
It's not as if you can just make it happen, just like that.
His streams are done spontaneously.
Yeah.
And his
Oh,
knowledge
that's a
is
good point.
so deep. His knowledge is
Yeah.
so deep. His communication is very organized. But the actual, like, the spontaneity, I think is we couldn't nail him down to doing a stream every first Tuesday of the month. He wanted the flexibility that he would have probably for working on other things.
Yeah.
And like even on his streams, he just talks about everything.
Yeah, he doesn't really have an agenda. He just goes through
doesn't have an
chat.
agenda, so he could be talking about what tantric stuff.
Yeah.
Undercock.
Pulses.
Yeah.
So does that make Richard ISTP in our opinion?
I think so.
I think he's
That's what I landed
So,
on.
action-oriented, logical, analytical, spontaneous, reserved, independent, enjoy adventure, skilled at understanding how mechanical things work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
There
would
you
say
go.
that.
What?
It's very accurate. Yes.
ISTP would be ISTP is a virtuoso. Wow.
I was gonna ask. Okay, what
Sounds
does that
about
mean?
Wow.
Where does the second hyphen letter come in there, Maddie?
Okay, that one is A O.
They added that to sell more tests. So
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar. What is that?
Marketing.
How volatile somebody is?
Marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not that important.
Tend to have an individualistic mindset, pursuing goals without needing much external connection, engage in life with inquisitiveness and personal skill, varying their approach as needed. Harrison Ford said, I wanted to live a different life. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to go to the same place every day and see the same people and do the same job. I wanted interesting challenges. Virtuosos love to explore with their hands and their eyes, touching and examining the world around them with cool rationalism and spirited curiosity. People with this personality type are natural makers, moving from project to project, building the useful and the superfluous for the fun of it and learning from their environment as they go. Often mechanics and engineers, virtuosos find no greater joy than in getting their hands dirty, pulling things apart and putting them back together just a little bit better than they were before. Or in HEX case, much better than they were
Much
before.
better.
Virtuosos explore ideas through creating, troubleshooting, trial and error, and firsthand experience. They enjoy having other people take an interest in their projects and sometimes don't even mind them getting into their space. Of course, that's on the condition that there's no pandemic and that those people don't interfere with the virtuoso's principles and freedom, and they'll need to be open to virtuosos returning the interest in kind. Virtuosos enjoy lending a hand and sharing their experience, especially with the people they care about. It's a shame that they're so uncommon, making up only about 5% of the population. Virtuoso women are especially rare, and the typical gender roles that society tends to expect can be a poor fit. They'll often be seen as tomboys from a young age. Dare to differ. Yes, with their mechanical tendencies, can make them appear simple at a glance. Virtuosos are actually quite enigmatic, friendly but very private, calm but suddenly spontaneous, extremely curious but unable to stay focused on formal studies. Virtuoso personalities can be a challenge to predict, even by their friends and loved ones. Virtuosos can seem very loyal and steady for a while, but they tend to build up a store of impulsive energy that explodes without warning, taking their interests in bold new directions.
Retards.
Hey, chill.
That was a hard R there, Papa.
No.
Oh, you're saying what? Okay, you're saying
Yes. Yes.
his,
What did he say?
You thought I was
his not
calling you a
holding back with what he
retard.
thinks of people. Yes.
No, Maddie. No, I was not calling everybody on the chat. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was Richard.
he was.
That was
funneling-
his
Yeah,
impulsive build-up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Virtuosos' decisions stem from a sense of practical realism, and at their heart is a strong sense of direct fairness, a do unto others attitude, which can be applied to tone vase and tone vase, which really helps to explain many of virtuosos' puzzling traits. Instead of being overly cautious, though, avoiding stepping on toes in order to avoid having their toes stepped on, virtuosos are likely to go too far, accepting likewise retaliation, good or bad, as fair play.
Fair play. Wow.
The biggest virtuosos are likely to face, the biggest issue virtuosos are likely to face is that they often act too soon, taking for granted their permissive nature and assuming that others are the same. They'll be the first to tell an insensitive joke, get overly involved in someone else's project, roughhouse and play around, or suddenly change their plans because something more interesting came up. Nothing is as boring as everyone agreeing with you.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so true. Yeah,
Bring your heroes here to die.
That's
Yeah.
right.
that's so true, man. So true.
So let's see. I mean, Michael Jordan, Olivia Wilde.
Wow,
Okay.
Jordan. Oh, Jordan. Wow.
She have a Hex logo in her hand.
Yes.
Hey.
Whoa!
Oh.
Mm.
Oh.
Creepy.
You can't make this shit up.
Shit.
You can't make this shit up. Oh. What
Maddie,
the?
if you click the little arrow there, we'll see some more
Yeah.
famous people that are also virtuosos.
I didn't see it. The page seemed like it was malfunctioning. It wasn't. Oh, there we go.
Ah,
Clint
little arrow.
Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is an arrow to go to the next page, but
No.
that one,
The,
that little one next to Clint.
yeah. The,
See that
the
little?
one on the right. Yeah. No.
Back up. You see that little
See, right
The
next
one
to
below.
Clint there.
Next
Oh,
to-
I
the
see
one
it.
pointing to the right? Yeah.
Oh, my screen is cut off. I can't see that far.
Ah,
monitor.
your
Okay,
mouse
there
is
we
like
go.
right there. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
A bit more. No.
Ah,
No.
Tom Cruise.
Yep.
I love how
Craig.
they give the
Ooh.
fictional.
Wait, Arya
characters-
Stark is a fictitious character. What the fuck?
I know, right? Indiana Jones. Wow.
What? Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. That's a double trouble. Did you get Han Solo too?
Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer.
John McClane.
I don't get it.
Man,
MacGyver.
Angus
MacGyver.
MacGyver.
James Bond.
it might not be Richard. You know, we've speculated on his personality, but we've got to get some Richard faces on these celebrities. I think, man, That's got to happen. Who's the meme makers out there? 8-bit? You out there?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what's up with the hex on Olivia Wilde's hand? Shit.
Oh yeah.
What's that about?
Well,
She's
it's a
hexagon.
clue. It's a clue in the game of Hex.
Yeah.
It means we're on the right path.
Uh-huh.
It means we were meant to discover this.
God. You can't make that up. You can't make that up. Man.
I
Really,
mean,
guys, we didn't make this up.
No.
what? Yeah, what is that from? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Michael
I don't
Jordan
know.
has a basketball. Like that makes sense, right?
So, what show was she in?
She was in House,
House?
right?
I'm just Googling now Olivia Wilde hexagon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did anybody else get goosebumps?
A little
I
bit.
got hex pumps.
Piloerection is the medical term, Papa, for goosebumps.
All right.
Piloerection.
I love little erections all over yourself.
Let's see.
It's scary, man. Shit. What's up
What
with
controls the miner server for Hex? Magical fairies that live in a tree. Let's
Miner
see.
server.
F Binance. Is Binance down or something? Let's see. Bitfinesse, we should do a show on your staking ladder, and that way you can explain it passionately and get us excited about it. I retweeted your original one that you wrote in beautiful handwriting, but I haven't been on Twitter enough to like see the second one.
That was a
But
good.
it's pinned to your Twitter, so
Yeah.
So we've discovered Richard's personality, but it's created more questions than answers at this point, right? We've got a team of people working around the clock to investigate this Olivia Wilde situation. I'm going to have my team reach out to her, and
Maybe
this
she'll do
might
a
be a
cameo.
sign that she's going to be our spokeswoman, or
Hold
that she and Richard are having an affair.
Hold
Oh.
on.
There are so many possibilities. Like,
Got to get her to do a cameo now.
that's right. Yeah. We'll look into it for sure.
I'm looking into it.
Okay,
Right
Hexmac is doing extra research. He's,
now. I'm
Yeah.
I'm front running the hexagons.
Yes.
Yeah.
thanks for the compliment. It's made by Crypty Girl. Her merch is very smooth. Like her, normally when you order Hex merchandise, like it doesn't even show up, or it's not as good as you imagined it. But Crypty Girl, her store is actually really cool. It sends you notifications all along the way, and it's just very, very well polished.
Are you going to use a Sharpie to make the smallest hexagon on that one?
Oh yeah.
I can sell you a template. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much?
Sell,
1 ETH?
Sell you a template. Yeah.
1 ETH?
Not
Is that
give,
the
Send
cost?
me,
sell.
send me the gas fee first.
How does Hex exist other than on ETH? I could get it rolled out. From what I understand, who would make that happen? Yeah, I mean, Richard's talked about the fact that basically we want to. Again, it was in that Hexo interview that I rewatched with Richard and Hexo. He talks a lot, and I clipped it, so I might actually upload some of the stuff that Richard said about that. But the idea is that there's a lot of economic energy in ETH that we want to come into Hex, so that's why we want to make it be on that chain. That's one reason. And then we discussed earlier in this program how actually being in a situation where you're getting middle income people in at this phase is helpful because it probably causes less dumping along the way. And so there might be hidden pumpamentals in the fact that the fee is a certain price that's uncomfortably high or unexpectedly high. Also, it causes people to make longer, more sure stakes. People who are on the fence about HEX are not staking right now because they don't want to pay the high fees. Those who have the most belief in the system are the only ones staking, getting the super awesome share rate that is a limited time offer. It will never exist again.
The other thing as well, for those people who did short stakes, you know, you've still got time to fix those mistakes. You've still got a chance to, like, you know, if you want to let them bleed out, you can let them bleed out. But we're still at, you know, a cent, sub 1 cent. You still have time to grab a bag and stake and do very well for yourself. So those people that have done a lot of, you know, short stakes, don't feel bad. Just chalk it up to a learning experience. I know that sucks, but the other way is just going to hurt a lot more, looking at it as, you know, I screwed this up and it's all done and FUD bags.
That goes back to the therapy topic, right? That Papa B came up with, you know, about really second guessing. And I think that there's a tendency, like, for example, I'm dollar cost averaging out of something in crypto that's done well, but I don't think it's going to do as well as HEX going forward. And, you know, so I can see myself probably continuing to check the price of that, you know, even when I've exited the position as much as I want to, and then kicking myself, you know, every time the price spikes up a little bit, imagining, oh, you know, I could have done better, right? Or with uni, right? I converted my uni to HEX, and it's, so I think, you know, you could stop there's something called thought stopping, right? In therapy, which is like, you tell yourself no, and you just don't do the calculation. You don't have that currency on your list of ones that you're tracking, right? And you write down your rationale and you go back and look at what you were thinking, so you can continue to understand that you're always doing your best, right? Even when your best isn't the optimized strategy with all the information that you have now. You were using all the knowledge that you had back then, unless you were intentionally not doing your best. But I mean, you have to cut yourself a break, and like, you have to stop. Like, you're not living in reality when you're thinking that you could have done better in the past, because if you could have done better, you would have done better in the past, right? And so this fantasy that, like, you could have done something differently is not in touch with reality. The reality is that you played the game the best you could at the time, you know, and then how can you take that guilt or that, like, greed or whatever emotion it is, right? Or like the self-loathing, right? And how can you turn that energy into something that's going to be more positive and productive going forward, right? Like, is that energy that you could use to better yourself, to motivate yourself to learn more at this point, right? Or to identify, like, the trends, right? Like, my indicator is if Richard says something, now I believe it and act on it more than ever, right? Because I've got that trust and that history built up with the way that he's made calls. You know, when I wish I would have, like, started following Richard earlier than I did. You know, I probably started following him a couple months before HEX came out. I wish I would have built up the understanding of how wise he is and how good his calls are, so that I could have bought more Bitcoin when he called the bottom, right? And so I could have bought more ETH when he was saying now's a good time to buy, you know, and all those other things. So is that helpful at all, Papa?
Yeah.
So what are your results, guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a table.
You want to go first, Maddie?
So I am ENFP.
ENFP. Okay.
But I also trend towards ENTP as well.
NPP.
So,
Okay.
I'm still doing therapy with people a lot of hours a day, so my feeling comes out when I do that, and so I at least more hours of the day I'm an ENFP.
Do you think that that'll over time you'll like learn to not have those feelings come out so much, or is it just something that is uncontrollable?
I was always ambidextrous on that, so I was always scoring pretty close to 50%. And then when I got training in a scientific laboratory and I was not doing any therapy and I was working with people who were all T's, then I started to take on their styles of thinking, right? And developed that, I guess, part of my personality more in that context. And so a therapist normally have a lot of mirror neurons, which means we can empathize with people and we can put ourselves in other people's shoes to help problem solve. And so that's probably another kind of hidden aspect of why I was acting more like a T at that point. And I think that there are certain tasks that I do where it's more beneficial to be thinking than feeling, right? When I'm making financial decisions, I would want to be more of a feeler if there isn't evidence that HEX is going to be so amazing and I'm just kind of risking it, right? Whereas if I've got the facts in front of me that say how good HEX is, then I want to act on that and not on feelings, because feelings are sometimes less predictable but can lead you to be lucky. I got lucky with HEX before I realized how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this was probably in like March of 2020, where I had like HEX had spiked in price, it had gone up, and my little investment had turned into a fair chunk of money, and HEX just overtook my mind at that point. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about putting all of my Ethereum in one go into Uniswap, and that lasted for like a day or two, where it was like, I don't know what the feeling is or why it's there, but I need to take everything that I have and put it into HEX pretty quickly. And I couldn't take my mind off it. I couldn't get out of my own thoughts about it. It was this interesting little period of just your intuition is kicking in here and it's telling you to go and do something that your rational mind can't comprehend properly right now.
That's what so many people describe too when they find out about Bitcoin. And that's why I think these long streams that we're creating, in some sense, will provide a record that's helpful for people coming along afterwards. And then they're starting to do that binge, right? Where you realize what it is and then you want to learn everything you can about it. And when people are reviewing, our info, they're going to be able to look at some of the timestamps for some of the things, right? They're going to be able to hear a more and more refined version of our elevator pitches and stuff. I hear people getting better and better at explaining things all the time. So leaving meat on the bone.
Exactly. So I'm an INFJ.
Ah, okay. INFJ.
INFJ. Okay. How about Papa B?
I think I'm an ISTJ.
ISTJ. Okay.
So you're opposite of all mine.
We're yin and yang.
That's
man.
right. Yeah.
ISTJ. Right.
And that's the raddest one, by the way.
Vince?
Oh, I am INFP.
INFP. Okay.
Wow, we're very close, Vince. I find, and this is a weird thing too, my friend who told me to actually take this personality test last year, we're exactly the same. And
Wow.
we're like best friends. So he was like, yeah, I'm this one. And it's like those people that you get really close to, they can be, extremely similar or very similar. I know me and Vince have been talking for months and months and months and months and months in HEX. So Vince is probably one of the people I've formed a closer connection with over this time. It's interesting to see how much of that lines up, and it's like, oh, okay, I get why we're similar and why we get along.
Okay.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm INFP.
Oh,
Cool. We're also very similar, Kevin, and that makes sense too.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm just tabulating. 1, 2, 3.
And so I'm going to share this screen here of like where you can go to the next level of looking at relationships. And so this is the one that I like a lot that shows kind of in a simple way to show like how compatible you are with, well, it's
the other types.
Let's see if I can get it to come up actually. Okay, well, there we go. And so, oh, it's all blurry. Anyway, it's showing like your different, all the different types, and then on one axis, and then the other axis is a mirror. And so you can see whether as a romantic relationship, whether it would be, rethink this one, or the best, I think the dark green is often listed as an ideal match. And then it's got a good chance, one-sided match. It could work in yellow. And so for a lot of them, it just depends on what type you are. Like generally E's and I's go together in relationships well because you complement each other, and but when it comes to the S versus the N, which is really I, intuitive versus sensing, that's how you get your information about the world. So if you don't agree with your partner about even the information that you're getting about the world, then it's really hard to agree on anything. And so there's typically more conflict in those pairings where that dimension is opposite. And then thinking versus feeling can complement each other. And then especially the P versus the J complements each other really, really well, because then you have somebody who's detail oriented, who's like making sure the bills are getting paid. And then you've got somebody else who's thinking about the big picture. Right. And so that's kind of the breakdown there. The two on the ends. So introverted versus extroverted and perceiving versus judging. Those are two that if you're opposites on, it's going to supposedly create a better match. And then the one in the, then the second one you want to be the same on usually. And then the third one is kind of, doesn't really matter either way. So that's how this chart is. That's what that chart is really saying. If you look at it, if you analyze it.
That's cool. I didn't know about that chart.
And you can read, there's lots of descriptions on different websites where you can read about how your conflict styles are and everything if you know your partner's personality type. It's really interesting.
Well, if you would have given me that chart before my last marriage, you could have saved me $400,000.
Ooh. How much will you pay me for it now?
20 yen.
Okay.
20 yen.
I'm already knee deep in the next marriage. It's done. Yeah.
Take that filthy fee up.
How many T-shares is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit. God damn it.
Okay. I'm TJ. Okay. Fitness. I'm TJ. Okay. So I'm done with the chart. You guys want to see the
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Let's see. Share screen. You guys see that?
Whoa, look at this.
So you've got most. Do I have?
Is this like the ant share mining pool?
Yeah, because the stakers are the miners in Hex.
Well, there you go.
Funny.
Oh, okay.
We
Can I
pool
get-
our personalities together and we get strong hands.
Yes.
There you go.
I like that.
Diamond hands.
Should I? Can I zoom that? How the hell do I zoom this? Oh shit!
If you do like Control Plus, sometimes
Plus.
it's like
Mhm.
Command or Control Plus.
Are you sure you want to delete? No.
No. Let's see here.
Ah, okay. See that?
Okay, yeah.
See that? Okay. So we've got the most INTJs for. We've got it's a split between INTJs and ENFPs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and the next one would be INFPs, and the rest we've got INTPs, ISFJs, ISTPs, and so on. Yeah. So we've got quite a number of. If you split, I think we've got the most number of Ns,
Hmm.
which is
And eyes are super prevalent,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, we've got more eyes than E's.
And ease, yeah.
Yeah, and more N's than S's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We've got a lot of N's. Yeah, over S's. Yeah. Anyway, we can. There's probably a better way to show present the data, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown. Yeah.
For live on stream, that was pretty awesome, Kevin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
I was just tabulating the results from the chat and
Hmm.
for us. So yeah,
That's me, dark and crazy.
yeah, got a lot of N's. Yeah, more introverts versus extroverts, and more N than S.
Yeah.
More intuitive
Hmm.
than more
So
N
we're
than
totally
S.
missing ES on there,
Nope.
right?
No. Yeah. We don't have any ES.
Interesting.
Extroverted and sensing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have ES. Yeah,
Hmm.
don't have ES.
Those are the hedonists, right? The ones who are addicted to skydiving and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
I lost 2 friends skydiving.
Oof.
Sorry to hear that.
Really,
I,
Papa?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of skydiving.
Hmm.
Damn.
Yeah, parachutes didn't open, so.
Oh.
Wow.
And after the first one, I warned the second one, and he's like, yeah, well, if I go, I'm doing something that I love, and he did. So there you go.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I have no words for that. That's intense.
Well, I mean, I extreme sports in general are fun, but the ones where you're, relying on that one little thread, right? That you double, triple checked was right, and you've got the backup little thread, and then after that backup doesn't do what it's supposed to do, what are you left with, right? So you got an entanglement, a cutting procedure, a redeployment, and that doesn't work. You've got prayer, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess so. Yeah. Interesting.
But on an upbeat, they were great. They left me their hex. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh god.
That's pretty dark.
It's just how I like it.
Yeah. Like,
How you like your coffee.
like, are you sure you're not the one who packs the parachute? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you bastard.
So,
Hex Max, House of Parachuting.
yeah.
Come on,
Like,
we're going
leave
up
your
tomorrow,
seed
all
words,
packed.
you know, at the sign-in. Like,
Yeah,
No.
to get on the plane, you got to hand me your seed words. That's how that's how
Exactly.
it works. Yep.
Yep.
If only got one engine in the plane, you know.
HEX School of Parachuting. 0% graduation rate.
well, yeah, I think life has a 0% survival rate on a long enough time scale, right? And so, having the attitude that you're living a full life, right, and valuing the life that you have, and certainly like other people who, you know, their time is up, and that's a way that people are creating meaning in order to live their lives to the fullest and create meaning out of you know, your life that's really, you know, sacred and something that's incredible. I think you know, those are all admirable things that people can look at when they're thinking about life and death. And you know, I also think that it's really interesting, you know, that Richard is interested in life extension and that sort of thing, right? Because overall, it's not really extreme accidents that kill most people nowadays. What kills people are those, you know, those medical disorders that are, you know, caused by cells breaking down, right? And by the wear and tear on your body, your heart disease, lung disease, right? And those sorts of things. And so, and cancer, right? And so, to have kind of a person, you know, the personality of Richard, who's really a bold leader, you know, and he's an innovative creator and stuff. I think it's really exciting to see his kind of history, and his story was he started talking about life extension and nobody cared. So he pivoted to crypto and now has invented something that I think he's even commented like blows his own mind, right? And so now I think that's an interesting backstory for somebody. I think when I was trying to predict which cryptos would do better, I recognized that origin stories matter when it comes to crypto founders and everything, right? And so I think we're in the right boat when it comes to somebody who's trying to make the world a better place, somebody who's trying to, you know, save people's lives from committing suicide, from trading, you know, being on the wrong side of a trade. There's some, you guys are holding back laughter. Is there?
Yeah, Hexmac is definitely trolling
there a
while
booger
he's
on my face?
on stream. I can see that.
I am not trolling.
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
trying to hide a bit finesse laugh. He wrote something in the chat. I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. So share with the rest of the class, Hexmac.
Manny, can you pull up the last comment from Bitfinesse?
Okay. This?
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, damn. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
So true.
Spot on.
Yeah.
So
That was all.
yeah, there's my
Now
rants
we're all
about like
included.
like life extension. I think is an admirable, maybe an admirable thing. When you're looking at the world as a place that is capable of having abundance, if there weren't middlemen, and Bitfinesse, his ears are going to perk up when I say middlemen, because he wants death to all middlemen, and he doesn't want them to go easily, right? He doesn't want them to go while they're doing the thing that they love. He wants them to go in a very tortured way. And so any of us, you know, who are like following in the footsteps of people who are early in Bitcoin, you know, when we meet our temptations to be corrupted, right? Remember, Bitfinesse is like, you know, the Grim Reaper in the night. Like, he will come for you if you sell out and you start betraying humanity by acting like a middleman in HEX, right? If you build something on HEX that is going to be exploiting people, he will come for you. right?
Yep, absolutely. All I can say is I'm glad
end you.
Bitfinesse is a hexagon.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
I agree.
All you middlemen.
He has said some very threatening things on the internet about, you know, what he thinks these bankers deserve, right? These central bankers who are literally exploiting humanity, who are enslaving people in other countries, right? By forcing them to use the dollar to settle their trades, and then printing 40% more dollars. You're literally stealing, you know, the prosperity in the world. You're centralizing more and more of the power in the world, which if things weren't so centralized, maybe technology would have been that abundant force that creates enough for everybody or creates more for everybody. But right now, that's not how it's playing out. And so I think crypto, and HEX in particular, like, as something that's been designed to stop exchanges from getting in, right? It's an anti-exchange really product too. And so it all kind of wraps around to this idea of maybe, you know, I don't think it's going to make poor people rich necessarily. Like I don't think HEX is going to solve every problem in the world. But I think if we do have a hard currency, Papa B, like, settle down. You know, if we do have a harder currency that has a known monetary policy, right, then the world can act in a productive way that isn't always being pushed around by an interest rate that's robbing you and forcing you to invest in things that maybe are more risky than, you know. And you can look back in history and you can see there were more 0 to 1 inventions, as Peter Thiel would say, when there was a gold standard or when there was something where bankers weren't exploiting everything. So
Vince always talks about that. Yes, I knew that was coming. Vince,
Like,
you always talk about you know, fix the money, fix the world, and that is
I love that.
that is that, you know, like,
Yeah.
we don't know how many problems there are because of money. I'm sure that
Yes.
there are a lot of them, but if you
Yes.
fix the money, how many of those problems go away?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think of course, HEX won't solve all the problems in the world, but it will enable people it'll give people the means to solve problems. So,
Like, it'll take away, right, some of the toxic money that schemes that are out there that's all they're doing is they're extracting rent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at companies that force you to stay in Apple or Android ecosystem, you know, if you look at these big tech corporations that, you know, they're incentivized to keep centralizing power, and they're incentivized to, like, pay politicians off, right? And there are all these perverse incentives in capitalism that really can create abundance if they're managed properly, or if there's not too much being siphoned off, right? People should be rewarded for, like, creating new things, right? But when they switch to, you know, an anti-competitive, right? That's one of the side effects and ill symptoms of capitalism is you become anti-competitive when you get too big. And so I think if HEX mixes things up, then that will be really a healthier world, even if the wealth isn't distributed immediately fairly. But, you know, I'm kind of biased, right? Because I've already got HEX.
Yeah.
And like, the cool thing about HEX is that, like, it has its own game theory, but you can set up your own game theory inside of its game theory. So, Maddie, you know, you talk about paying people to quit smoking or something like that.
Yes.
You could set up you could set up a stake for yourself that says, okay, I'm going to give myself 2 months to end smoking, and at the end of the 2 months, my stake is due, and that's the reward that I get for doing that. And you can do that endlessly inside this thing. You can, for as long as the system's there, you can do that.
What if you don't quit smoking? You can donate that to the staker class, like me.
Yeah, you let it bleed. You let it bleed out, and you pay everyone else.
Or send it directly to Papa B.
That's my favorite.
Yes.
He will be your enforcer. He will keep you honest.
Yes, I'll hold that for you.
Uh-huh. As long as you've seen the Ethan gas first. Right,
But
Pablo?
the
Pre-
Gnosis
pre-
safe technology makes this possible. It's not only is it going to allow social recovery, right, where you've got multiple keys basically that are controlling something in the event that something goes wrong for the primary account holder, but you could also, like, you could give a key to your doctor who's like keeping you honest about, you know, you're quitting smoking or something. So,
Or who is conveniently named Matty Allen.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but if you want to donate something, you know, I'm not gonna hold your purse, okay? When you go to the bathroom, like, I'm not that guy.
Oh, what kind of friend are you?
I would rather code it. I would rather code it into the currency or the money so that people can mint their own mental health instead of relying on a third party, because that literally, I think if we aren't intentional about how we go about what we're building, we're going to fall into the same exact traps people came into before, where they got super wealthy and then, all of a sudden it's okay to shill a Bybit link. You know, all of it's, you know, all of a sudden you're slipping into that centralized mentality and you're rebuilding the exact same system that existed before. That's why it makes me nervous about tradable HEX shares. Like, but I think, again, if we approach it as a group that is, you know, doing our best to be creative and to find all the good use cases that could come out of any technology that would map onto this. Because, I mean, this is like the internet, you know, videos weren't on the internet when the internet first came out. You know, I think that there's going to be a lot of incredible things that can be built once you have the right technology to build on. And that's definitely HEX.
And Matty, I think that the threat of tradable stakes or T-shares or whatever you want to translate that to would assume that the appreciation of the asset would have to be staggering for that to be viable and make a market where the primary HEX market would be, you know, unattainable to the normal people. That's what I feel. That's why I'm not worried about it. Like, one heart would have to be $1 at that point. That type of thing. I don't think it's a threat.
Like, it's like, could be close to launch. Like, they've published some stuff about it, but, like, again, I kind of had an emotional reaction. You know, I'm a feeler, right? So I had that reaction. And so it's a good thing that HEX is designed the way it is, to where when I was in my right mind, when I didn't hear that FUD that I even created for myself, you know, I couldn't, you know, dump 98% of my bag because I already believed in it. And now I'm locked in by the math. Right. And
well, listen to this ISTJ, mister. Don't worry about it.
Ooh, thanks. So what happens when you get anxious about things? Because I hear you ask anxious questions sometimes. But then how do you manage that?
I'm only anxious probably because my stool softeners are kicking in.
Like,
otherwise I'm pretty mellow.
But it's probably your S that's so practical. You're asking practical questions, right? And you're wanting to know from your experience, like, because when the market goes up and down, you're going to experience, if you're in touch with that, if you're judging the reality instead of your imagination of where HEX is going to go, you're basing it off of where is HEX now and where has it been and how's that information coming in. So something I would say to that, right? Because we have all these different personalities in HEX, like, it's important to remember, like, low liquidity. I hope I helped people understand today why low liquidity is so brilliant right now. Low liquidity looks like a scam because scams use low liquidity as well, right? To fake volume and to make it so that big people can't dump because they're going to dump on you, right? So like scams, so low liquidity, there's a reason why CoinMarketCap isn't listing HEX. One of the reasons is low liquidity. One of them is low volume, and like one of them is corruption, right? So there's like multiple reasons why they're not doing that, right? They stand to lose. They didn't buy in. Nobody paid them to list it. There are all these things.
Mm.
And where they get their money from advertising legitimate scams, like actual scams, right? Like that's not going to be allowed. But there's another use case for low liquidity other than a scam. And it's literally, I mean, it gets better and better because like, if you look like a scam, then you can fly under the radar longer, and only people who really look into you deeply and then who become stronger believers are the only ones who really get involved, and everybody else like who isn't willing to study something that much, then they're going to get left behind, right? They're going to be late to the party. But the low liquidity, like what that creates is it creates more price volatility, but you have to remember that that's fake. It's kind of like fake volatility because really you could dump the price of HEX down a lot by selling right now. But how much are you really going to be able to sell without moving the price against yourself on the downside, right? It's not just on the upside that you move. So it's so ideal that people are stuck, right? You can't dump too much because there's low liquidity, and you can't buy too much without moving the price against yourself because of low liquidity. So when you see the price drop, remember, really it's a buying opportunity, and it's not really, it's fewer actors causing that, and it's only a temporary thing, right? Because there are so many people who have been incentivized to believe in the system and who are like standing by the sidelines. I can guarantee you, I'm going to figure out how to scrape together more money if the price goes to 30%, of a penny again, or if it goes to half of a penny again, or, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to come in. So the price isn't always being as honest as the reality. If you look at it the way I'm kind of imagining it, right? With how low liquidity is a good thing in a situation like this, where you're trying to teach people how to have stronger hands.
I like that idea of the price is not always really an accurate reflection of itself, almost in a way.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That's trademark Maddie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just also wanted to say, those quant streams that you're doing, Maddie, are so valuable.
Thank you.
Some people might go, oh, it's moon math, and they're talking, but really, like, they're just describing the system as it works. And all that is required to push the price up is a buyer.
Yes. And those guys bought in a lot. And like, if you listen to the end of the most recent one, that's where I went into all my kind of like new theories about the future price. You could like, we haven't discovered the future price, but we can predict the future to some extent by looking at the data going forward. And so Kareem and I were arguing about how high the price could go immediately. Just because, so that's good to see that there's dissent but it's, again, I always fall back to what Richard says. Richard said that you can't imagine how high and fast the price can go, right? Like he said that before, that like, so, and you're picking up pennies in front of freight trains. If you're selling now, if you're doing risky things, like if you're connecting up to too many wallets, to do potential airdrops, and then your HEX gets hacked or something, like don't lose sight of really what you have is diamonds.
And for someone like me, who I'm not the biggest maths, I'm much more into art and all of that kind of thing, having those streams there and having those guys just run you through how this works and how it's set up and how the AMM market works, that's fine. I don't want to say it's financial advice, but it's like people would pay thousands and thousands of dollars for that information. It's just being given away for free on stream. It's so invaluable. Big
Wales
props to
has
all
a
you guys.
quote, and he says, like, this is not financial advice. This is mathematical advice.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll come out with T-shirts or something. Maybe
should.
we'll mark them at the same price as uni socks. We'll peg them to. It'll be a parody with the uni socks.
That'd be awesome.
I'll reach out. We'll make it a shirt, Maddie. Even if it's just for you.
Yes. Awesome. What other thoughts do you guys have? We covered a lot today. We covered crazy theories about what's really going on in the game theory. We covered personality types and how that's loosely related to Hex, just in the sense that like knowing yourself allows you to have stronger hands, and it's kind of fun as well. It's something we can be doing other than obsessing over the price. Like, oh no, the price went down. Like, if you don't have any money to buy more Hex, then like, you know, you should be relaxing and working on your health, your mental health, your physical health, right? Getting the rest that you deserve and treating yourself well. So I'm excited that we all got to stream together. I really appreciate what each of you contributes to the community. So
thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's and so let's go around the room and say how people can find you, because that's important. We don't want you to be lost.
Sure. So I'm pretty much on all platforms. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I run the little community group for the Hexicans over on Facebook. Yesterday we had 123 members. So that's just
Nice.
a future anticipation of 369 coming in. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm everywhere. Hexback.
Awesome.
I'm this thing, but reversed on Twitter, and I may DM you and ask you for money. So you can give me everything you have. It's okay. It may be a scam, but it's probably my scam. So
That's
all
right.
good. No, I'm
you
just
send-
kidding. I'm never going to DM anybody or ask for money. It's no financial advice. Don't take me to jail. I pay my taxes. I'm a law-abiding person. I'm just a different character type than a lot of the people on the rest of this chat. Apparently, I feel isolated now, and I've got to go to Maddie for extensive therapy sessions. Thank you.
That's right. 1 ETH per session.
Damn it.
Hear me.
That's pretty expensive.
You charge for quality.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
break the law by practicing
Quality.
across lines. So I'm just here for entertainment and free speech and knowledge.
I guess I'm next, or Kevin.
You go ahead.
Yeah, all right. I'm mostly on Twitter. CryptoVince369, and just CryptoVince LOL on Telegram too. Yeah.
And you can find me on Twitter, Uncle Kevin Hex, or on Clubhouse, Kevin.
Cool.
Kevin.
You can find all my stuff at allmylinks.com/allin. Thank you all for joining us for Hex Therapy. We'll do a 30-second ad on the way out, and stake wisely, my friends. It's still ending. It's like hanging up on the end.
Okay, it's done.
Let's begin the hour-long epilogue.
Yeah, we're still live. I think it's like
Yes, we are.
You are.
It is broken.
Mm. We'll just all freeze and wait for the